Welcome back. Today we're jumping straight into, well, the pretty high stakes around President Trump's big, beautiful bill, and things have definitely been moving. If you think back to late May, our last deep dive, we covered how this bill just barely passed the House, and it was heading to the Senate for what we knew would be some, let's say, intense talks.
And now we got the big update. It did pass the Senate, but it was seriously dramatic, 51-50. And the key thing is, it passed with some pretty significant changes.
Ah, okay, so those changes mean it goes back to the House.
Exactly, right back for final approval. And, the question for businesses isn't just if it passed the Senate, but
Yeah.
what these changes actually mean for this next round.
Right, the pressure must be immense, especially with President Trump pushing for passage before, what, his July 4th deadline?
hmm That's the target. So our mission here really is to break down the key takeaways from all this. And specifically, what does it all mean for you, particularly if you're in freight, logistics, or the wider supply chain world? It's about turning this political noise into, well, useful business intel.
Welcome to Logistics Pulse, sponsored by Mothership. Skip the broker to save big on LTL shipments, or deliver same day nationwide.
Okay, let's start with that Senate showdown then. You said it was a nail-biter. That kind of close vote, 51-50, it really shows deep divisions, doesn't it? Even inside the Republican Party.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge indicator. 51-50 finish, needing Vice President Vance to break the tie after that all-night vote-a-rama. It really highlights just how fragile party unity is. It makes any big legislative effort, well, prone to sudden shifts. And for businesses, that means policy certainty is hard to come by.
And getting even that one vote margin, they must have had to do some serious maneuvering. What kinds of concessions did we see?
Well, the deal-making was pretty intense. We saw things like extra money for rural hospitals slipped in, specific carve-outs on Medicaid rules, too. And what's interesting is how these immediate political wins, these compromises, often have that longer-term fiscal cost attached. It's less about what was compromised and more about how these internal political fights effectively shape economic policy down the road.
Mm-hmm. But fiscal conservatives weren't happy, were they? I saw reports they were slamming the deficit impact.
No, they weren't. They pointed to projections showing like a $3.3 trillion increase to the deficit over 10 years because of this bill. So you have this real tension to make concessions to pass it now versus the long-term fiscal health argument. It raises big questions about those trade-offs.
So, okay, the Senate passes its version, sends it back to the House with these changes, and that makes life very difficult for Speaker Mike Johnson, who's already got a tough job. What are the specific problems he's facing now?
It's tricky. The Senate version has stricter Medicaid work requirements, for instance, and you change some other spending cuts. Those are things some House moderates find, well, politically dangerous back home. But then you've got the other side, the House Freedom Caucus, the real hardliners. They think the Senate didn't cut enough. They want deeper cuts.
Wow, so he's caught right in the middle.
Completely. Push and pulled. And remember, he has that incredibly thin majority. You can only lose, 3 Republican votes?
Yeah, that's razor thin. And I heard something about weather delays maybe even affecting attendance. Could that actually impact the vote count?
It potentially could. It just adds another layer of chaos, right? It shows how precarious the whole situation is. It's shaping up to be a very bruising internal fight. Party leaders are scrambling to get everyone on the same page before that July 4th deadline. But even if it passes the House, the whole process just screams uncertainty, which, as you know, businesses really don't like.
And President Trump himself, how involved is he in twisting arms and getting this over the line?
Oh, he's neck deep in it. Reports say he's cleared his schedule, making calls, holding meetings, really doing that personal arm twisting with the holdouts, and publicly. He's all over social media, calling the bill essential for growth, telling Republicans not to let Democrats push them around. That kind of direct, personal intervention, it signals a very transactional style, which might make future policy moves harder to predict.
So the White House just wants the win. A big legislative victory they can rave around on July 4th. Optics matter.
They do, and it fits into the broader picture, right? This bill is a piece of that whole America First agenda. It's not just happening in isolation. His tariff strategy is running in parallel, also very aggressive, also transactional. It's fascinating, actually, seeing the legislative push and the trade push happening at the same time. 2 tools for the same goal, essentially.
That's a great point. And you see it directly with that Vietnam deal, right? Even while pushing this bill, he's announcing revised tariffs there.
Exactly. Targeting transshipment from China, but also getting U.S. goods zero tariff access into Vietnam. It's a clear signal. Tariffs are a live tool they intend to keep using dynamically to shape supply chains and trade flows. For anyone managing imports or exports, this means you can't just set your tariff strategy and forget it. It's constantly in flux.
Okay, so we've covered the political battlefield, but let's dig into the actual substance. What's in this bill that makes it such a big deal? Because it does seem to mark a real shift in federal priorities.
It really does. Let's break down the main parts. Tax changes are huge, making the Trump-era cuts permanent, exempting tips and overtime pay from federal tax. Plus some targeted breaks, like deductions for auto loan interest, but only on U.S.-made cars.
Okay, tax cuts, but they have to pay for that somehow, right? Where are the cuts coming from?
The bill proposes slashing hundreds of billions from programs like Medicaid, SNAP, this food assistance, and also clean energy subsidies. But then on the other side, you see spending increases, big boosts for the military and for immigration enforcement. We're talking money for more border wall construction, advanced missile defense systems, a real shift in where the dollars are going.
That's a significant reallocation of resources.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, and this is a question for you listening, how will these specific changes ripple through different industries, different parts of the country? It won't be uniform, will it?
Definitely not. And this is where we need to connect the dots for supply chain, freight, and logistics leaders. This is where the political drama hits the operational reality.
Okay, let's do it. Takeaway number one, it sounds like political volatility is the new normal. Just because it passed the Senate doesn't mean the drama's over. You should probably expect more uncertainty, maybe last-minute tweaks affecting tariffs, infrastructure funding. Your planning needs to account for that, right?
Absolutely. Dynamic scenario planning is key. Second takeaway. Trade and tariff strategy is central, not separate. That Vietnam deal. It shows they'll use tariffs actively to control sourcing, punish transshipping. So importers need robust plans. Think about compliance, evolving rates, maybe needing more supplier diversification than ever. Flexibility is critical.
Makes sense. Okay, number three, fiscal policy shifts demand. Those tax cuts, like for tips and overtime, maybe they boost spending a bit in the short term. But the cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, that hits lower income spending. So if you're in freight or retail, you need to model those mixed signals carefully, region by region, maybe.
Precisely. Demand patterns could get patchy. Fourth, defense and security spending means specialized logistics opportunities. All that money for military, border security, advanced tech, that creates demand for secure, high-value, maybe oversized freight services. So carriers geared up for government contract or specialized transport should be watching for those procurement notices. Think aerospace, secure, tech transport.
Interesting. Fifth point, infrastructure might face trade-offs. With military and security spending going up and deficits projected to rise, does that squeeze future federal money for roads, bridges, ports? Logistics operators need to watch state and local budgets closely then. Could affect maintenance, congestion.
It's a real possibility. Federal support could tighten, putting more pressure on state and local funding, or leading to project delays. It's something to monitor. And that brings us to the final takeaway, number 6. Risk management is paramount. If there's one message from both the spending bill drama and the tariff actions, it's expect volatility. Full stop. Supply chains absolutely must invest in planning scenario modeling, tariff impact analysis, diversified routing. Resilience is the name of the game now.
So pulling it all together, this deep dive into the big, beautiful bill really shows how headline political fights translate directly into economic impacts, especially for supply chains. It's not just abstract politics. It has real-world consequences for moving goods.
Exactly. It underscores that constant need for adaptability, for foresight. You have to understand how these things connect. Tax policies, spending, tariffs, it's all interwoven. And navigating that landscape requires staying informed and being prepared to pivot.
So here's something for you to think about. Given everything we've discussed, the shifting priorities, the emphasis on risk, what's maybe one specific area in your own operation, your own industry, that might need a resilience checkup right now?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? How proactively can organizations actually prepare for these big top-down policy shifts instead of just, reacting after the fact? Getting ahead of it could make a huge difference.
For more insights like these, don't forget to subscribe to Logistics Pulse on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.